Let's spend some time learning the phases of the front vaults, and we're going to talk about what's acceptable starting at the pre-flight. There's basically two types of ways they do these vaults. They do a straight body approach, which looks great because we all know straight is great, but they might have their head out a little bit because they do have to be able to see their hands so they know where they're going, but we do like their ears pretty much covered. Or they could have a tight arch position, and a lot of them come on with a little tight arch, and those are all acceptable. Less acceptable would be the excessive arch, where they come on with a big bend in their back and possibly head way out. And what happens when they have that excessive arch is that they contact the table and they have a shoulder angle. So we're going to look at shoulder angles a lot because the shoulder angle is a deduction when they're on the table. An excessive arch kind of creates that because their head is up. Also, there are many girls that come on with a pike. With the pike body, you know, we have big deductions for piking in the pre-flight, hip angle up to 3. If they're coming on with that big pike, and, you know, remember our deduction rules are when it's an up to deduction, you don't take the max unless it's as the worst it could be, meaning a 90-degree pike. So there are a lot of girls that do come on with the pike, which is a deduction for them to do into their front vault. And then some of the athletes come on and have a very early tuck because they're going to do a front handspring front tuck, and they anticipate that. And then some of them come on with the arch and a tuck. So we're going to eyeball some of those right now, and we're going to talk about them without judging them, but we're just going to key in on the pre-flight. Here's a girl with a straight pre-flight. Okay. And if you could see that nice, it's so much easier to judge things that are straight because you see it. And look at that. That looks very nice. She does still have to work on keeping that rotation going and getting it over the top so she can salto. But that would be really nice to see. We don't have a deduction there in her pre-flight. We're judging the result of what she does. And now if you're going to draw it on your paper, that's what it looks like. So now let's see another girl. She is also going to do a straight pre-flight. It's quick and a little blurry, but we'll see it. So she had a straight body position coming on also, fairly straight right there. Her head is up a little bit, but look at, she's pulled it right back in there. Pretty nice. And here's a new one, and she's going to come on with a more of a tight arch. And our angle isn't great, but we're going to see her in slow, and you're going to see that she has, see that? She's got that tight arch there coming on, but she is tight. Her head is out a little bit. That means she's got a shoulder angle. So we have the shoulder angle deduction on the table, and it's acceptable. What isn't acceptable is the shoulder angle. The tight arch is okay. It wasn't excessive. All right, and here's the new girl, front pike half. So after you saw the last girl, hopefully you saw this girl had a bigger arch. She had excessive arch. So we would be taking a deduction there, which we didn't on the first girl. And she does, of course, also have a shoulder angle, but she's got a lower back arch. If you're drawing her picture, that's what it looks like. And she still gets off fairly straight. Her head is still out, but she pushed off and could finish the vault. All right, remember we talked about the different ways we're going to see the pre-flight, and this is the early tuck with the excessive arch. So we're going to stop her there. So let's add up what deductions we might come up with here. Before she even contacts the table, she had that really big arch in her back of a couple tenths. She's got the bent legs. She's got flexed feet. And as she contacts the table, she's got a big shoulder angle. So she's got at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at least tenths going on, and she hasn't even gotten off the table yet. This happens. And so we judge the result of what they choose to do. Years and years ago, when people started doing handspring fronts, they all did the thing called the thorax thrust, which was a big arch with bent legs, kick out. And everybody thought that was wonderful until somebody came along and did it straighter. And then somebody else came along and did it straight. And so this is an evolving vault for this little girl. That's what I'll say. And we have one more. And the next one is a handspring front tuck. So look at her pre-flight. You'll be able to see she was piked coming on. So there was our other variety. So remember, we have up to 3. For that one, it would probably be a good 2, but it looks like she has an arch in there as well. And when she gets onto the table, it looks like she's going to have a shoulder angle. And she does a little bit. And when she comes on in that pike, it's a lot of times harder for them to get those feet up over the top because their feet are way down low and they have to block off and then start the saltos. So sometimes that means they're going to land like she did. So those were pre-flights for us to recognize. And now you get to draw what you saw in her pre-flight for the next vaults.
So the first one that you're going to see is a front handspring double twist. Its new value is 9.8. So take a look at her pre-flight. Try to draw what you saw.
So there's our example of our pike on. So you see she was quite piked when she came on. And if we were judging this whole entire vault, it was flat and it didn't go up. But we're looking at the pre-flight right now. So hopefully you drew a pre-flight with the pike in it. And then when she got onto that table, then she did have that shoulder angle. And she didn't have much height at all as far as blocking off. And she's twisting right on top of the table. And she's got a lot of twists to do. She's got to get in a double. But let's not forget that this was not a salto vault. So we do apply the angle of repulsion. And she was off fairly late.
All right, so next we've got another example of a handspring double twist and a new value of 9.8.
Okay, if you drew your picture, hopefully you had a little pike on there. It seemed to be a little less than the previous girl. When she did get on the table, she had a better repulsion, better height, not as much shoulder angle on top of the table. So she was able to get those feet up and over and off a little bit quicker. So this one was a little incomplete in her twist, but she's already off and she's twisting, and see how she's landing just a little short. But overall, a better vault than the one before. So number 3, full on, full off, is a 9.7.
And we really had to hunt for these. I know we've judged a few of them in recent years, but they're not on YouTube. So we had to go all the way back to Olga Corbett. So this one is going to be a little blurry, but it's one that we found.
And it was on the horse, not a table. So her body position was really pretty good. She had to get that full twist around right away. So she was fairly straight. But when she blocks off, she doesn't go up very much. And when we judge our angle of repulsion, she was probably at around 3/10 getting off of the table later than she needed to. So if you're taking 3 in that, you already know you're going to have probably 3 in height.
Then Linda and I were judging together 2 weekends ago, and we were talking about this clinic, and I was just saying I really have had trouble finding full on, full off vaults for our video. And one of our judges said, "Oh, that was my vault when I was in college." And she said, "I have a closet full of VHS tapes with them on."
Yeah.
So I said, "Oh, would you do you have a VHS player still? And she said, I do. So she took videos of her VHS player on our television and sent us this one. But we could at least get a gymnast with a different perspective for the full on, full off.
Okay, see her in slow. Body position wasn't bad. Did you catch those bent arms on top of the table? It did have some push off. I don't know if it's because the bent arms were straightening or that she was actually going up. But again, we have the angle of repulsion. We were probably 1 to 2 on her. And her legs seemed to be a little crossed in the full off, and a little bit of dynamics in landing as well. But
she might have gotten off just a little bit higher than Olga. We're going to give her
yeah, I
credit
think
for
she
that.
did. I think it's going to score higher. She has scored higher than an Olympiad.
There we go.
Uh-huh.
And we really want to score her high because she gave us the video.
And she did. She should get free CPE for this.
Okay. All right.
All right, so now we have a handspring front tuck. You can draw her pre-flight. She comes on really pretty straight. She just got the shoulder angle on top. Had the early tuck though. We'll see her in slow, and she had good height. She just couldn't quite open it at the end there. And she just had the squat and the step. All right, number 5, another handspring front tuck. Now, even though that looked like a terrific landing, Dave Tilley would not be happy with it because she was too straight. So we have a little arch, tight arch coming on, and it looks like she's going to tuck her knees a little bit too soon. A little bit of shoulder angle, but she has pretty decent height, and she opens really nicely, but she just needed to compress when she landed a little more. So you can see that early tuck right there. And that's probably 3/10. If you could see it. And of course, when we can stop things and slow them down, things will be more apparent and worse than they really are in regular speed. Number 6, it's a front tuck half. She's celebrating. So look at that pre-flight. We have the pike. She's got a little lower back sag, but it's probably a 2/10 pike, not 3. A little bit of feet, good height, good open, and great celebration. Okay. Okay, front pike. 9/9. Okay, she comes on with that arch. It's not really a tight arch. It's a little bit more saggy. So we probably have a 10th in there. And then legs are a little bit apart. Height and open. Okay, now, all right, when you see her right there, her hips are still a tiny bit above her knee joints. They're pretty parallel right there, I guess. That's pretty close. So that would probably only be 1/10. And I think in our mind, when you saw it the first time, you probably would have thought, oh, that was at least 2. But I think that is more than like 1. Her chest is a little bit too low and she opens a little bit late. But I just wanted to point that out, that she's not in a bad position to land and she's got her feet apart. So it's just interesting to me because I originally would have thought I would have had more deduction there. And she had a 1/10 hop. Front pike again. Okay, that was a big vault, but it had a pike coming on. So would you take the whole 3? You could probably. It's almost 90 degrees, but I guess I'd probably take 2 to. And then once she does contact, she has a little shoulder angle, but she leaves quickly and she has good height and good opening. So there's a little shoulder angle. It looks like she's got a little tiny arm bend. And then if she would have sunk into her landing more, she probably wouldn't have had to take that big giant hop. Number 9. Oh, that's her. Oh.
You can tell there's a delay in when I'm seeing it and when Linda and the rest of you are seeing it because my O came before your
Your O
O.
was first. She does have a little arch coming on, but it's not bad. She's pretty good, looks good. Her shoulder angle is not too bad. Look at, she's leaving and it's pretty straight. But then she lands with her legs stiff and we can all close our eyes right now. So we have, oh, the front handspring onto the board is a 9-9 front tuck. At a good height. So she comes on with the front handspring. She looks a little bit crooked right here. Her legs seem to be a little staggered. And she's early tucking with her legs, a little shoulder angle there. And, but she has good height and a good open, and she just has some flex feet going on there and then hops on the landing. And when you land in a resi, you will never stick. So that was a practice. Here's another one, front handspring onto the board. She's kind of a tight arch coming on. Right there. So she's got kind of a loose arch there. You might have had a temp there with the shoulder angle too. Kind of an open tuck and loose legs, early tucking, and a hop. Front handspring, front tuck. Okay. She had kind of that early tuck of her knees. Let's see if she does it in the pre-flight. Well, it kind of happens as soon as she leaves the board, she starts bending her knees a little bit. So we had that. We had the flex feet, of course, but she needed a little more height and a little better opening too. So she tucked right away and then she didn't really go up a bunch. All right, one more. So here she comes, and she was a little crooked there when she came on. So now she looks fairly straight there. That looks good. But she needed a little more height and had to open, and she's opening as she's landing. She's not opening and then landing. So that was your drawing project. So now you get to watch these just for fun, because there's some different vaults that we don't see much. So you can enjoy them, but you can pick a phase that you might like to either draw or write down what you see in the pre-flight or on the table, or height or landing. You get to choose. So the first one is a front handspring onto the board, front pike with a half, which is a bonus, 10 plus 1. She was loose coming on. Did you see that arch coming on? Kind of excessive, a big arch. And then because she's on there and with that shoulder angle, it's going to be harder for her to go up and finish her salto and open it up, which she didn't quite do. And her legs were apart. So you didn't go wow because it went way up high. It didn't. So this one is a front tuck full. Handspring, front tuck full. What's nice about that vault is you see all three parts. You see the handspring, then you see the front, and then you see the full. She could have been a little more complete at the end. She comes on straight. She does the front, and then she does the twist. And so she could have been a little bit higher. They can always be a little bit higher. But that was a nice vault with a step and a little incomplete at the end. Front handspring onto board, front tuck full. So think of what you just saw, but she does a front handspring onto the board. wasn't nearly as nice. So, but we have some body position airs. And there they are. Okay. Giant cowboy, flex feet, bent legs on top of the table. So she started that early. And, she did get the turnaround, but she had enough height. But we did have a lot of form errors and a big excessive arch coming on. Front handspring onto board, quarter to half on, back salto piked. It was named after Zolke. She was a Region 4 gymnast. It's a 9-6. She just needs more height. So you'll notice here that she's doing her turn on and the back pike off with her chest landing low and didn't quite open it enough. But then what happened was she decided she'd do another vault and make it even harder. So now she's doing the same thing with a tuck full. She comes on and she has that early tucking happening immediately. So we've got the bent legs there. And then even though you can still have the first arm bent, both of her arms are bent, and she doesn't get it opened. And wasn't high enough, but this is just for fun to see different things. So now we have number 6, front handspring. Oh, this is our favorite. Let's watch her. Is that pretty or what? So front handspring, front layout. Arching, I mean, it's just all the way through, but it's not an arch excess, it's a tight arch all the way and straight. Really stunning. And she does it on a horse. Amazing. So that was fun. And here's another one. Oh, that's someone we've seen. So there's Alicia doing front 1.5 laid out. She comes on with a pike, but she gets it straight right away. So there she is already straightened out, and she's going to go up nicely, lands with her chest a little bit low and pops it right back up. The fact that she comes on with that pike and she's straight right as she does her repulsion is impressive. So those were your fun practice things of your front vaults.